Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rob's video blog here in my office once again. So I have 25-30 minutes on a Sunday here to squeeze one in. So while I'm starting to grow my winter beard, let's dive into it. So this one, I'm going to do a little review of some other, or a status update of some other previous video blogs that I had done. So a little over a year ago, my company's 401k got switched over to Fidelity. And in switching over to Fidelity, I had a number of holdings with which there are some restrictions on. And I had asked Fidelity if I can hold them, and they said absolutely no problem. Well, fast forward 6 months later, they had sent me a notification saying that I was no longer allowed to have those holdings in my account and that I would be forced to liquidate them. At that time, liquidating those assets would have made me take a pretty substantial loss. I was pretty irritated about it. I sent them angry emails. I called their customer service. I wrote them a handwritten letter. And lo and behold, 2 months later, they actually sent a letter back and said, we've decided to allow people to hold master limited partnerships in their self-directed portions of their 401k. So I was actually able to keep it. So I was pretty happy about that. That's good. I mean, it's my money. The fact that they were letting me keep my money in the form that I wanted to keep it in was a good thing. But alas, I have been disappointed because this past year I got the same letter I did last year. I called customer service again. I sent them angry emails again, and this time they forcibly liquidated my assets. And unfortunately, those particular holdings took a pretty significant loss. So Fidelity's a bank. Bankers, for lack of a better word, for the most part, and I hate to generalize, but unfortunately my experience with most banks and things like that has been somewhat negative. They don't really give a damn about me or my 401k. They just want to make a buck, and they're too lazy to file some paperwork. So screw you, Fidelity. If you were not my company's 401k holder, I wouldn't have a red cent with you guys. So a while ago, I had on one of my potpourri video blogs, I talked about using soap in place of shaving cream to shave. I had traveled on business and I had forgotten my shaving cream, so I just used the hotel soap, and it actually worked better than the shaving cream. And I said, hey, you should do that. Well, sometimes I don't take my own advice, and I continued to use the shaving cream that I had, and I guess my wife just kept restocking the shaving cream because it was running out. And about a month and a half ago, again, I was out of shaving cream, and I just used the Dove soap bar at home, and I shaved, and I said, you know what? This is really that much better, especially Dove, just the regular Dove moisturizing bar. Moisturizes your skin, lubricates way better than any shaving cream could. And it's been, well, aside from this, which is only about a week's worth of facial hair growth, I've been doing it for about a month and a half, 2 months straight. My face gets less red bumps. It's smoother, and I actually get a closer shave, if you can imagine. So I'm telling you, if you haven't tried it, go out and buy yourself a bar of just the regular Dove moisturizing soap. I think it comes in the little white package, and just use that to shave. And I'm telling you, it's a zillion times cheaper. It's way better on your skin. Just try it. It works 1,000 times better. And the last thing here is I had done a video blog on a company called Gravity Payments. I believe the CEO of that company was a gentleman, Dan Price, and he had instituted a $70,000 minimum wage. I think there were, maybe 10 or 20 employees who were making like who were making less than 70,000. I think the lowest was making 35. Most of them were making like 40, 50, something like that. And over the course of a year, he had given people like a $10,000 raise, and then it was supposed to ramp up, I think, in 2017 to $70,000. Now everybody at Gravity Payments is making minimum $70,000. And I had mentioned, you can't just pay people more money because you feel like it. They have to increase their value to the company, their level of productivity, and it's probably going to piss off the people that are already making $70,000, $80,000. So fast forward, this is probably a year or even longer since I did that video blog, and here's the update. Gravity Payments is actually doing very, very well. Initially, they did lose, I think, 2 or 3 top employees of theirs for the reasons that I had stated. They got upset that they didn't feel that the people who were getting the raises had actually, had earned it. So they left the company. But supposedly the company is doing very, very well. They've increased their sales 25-30% over the past couple of years. People there are doing well. They're very happy. So it's worked out really well. One of the things that Dan Price had mentioned was that his employees seem to be more productive. They're getting more out of their employees. Their employees are doing a better job, or they're being more productive. So this is excellent. This is very, very good. I'm very happy to see that. But you got to kind of ask the question, and you have to be careful of drawing the conclusion that just arbitrarily giving people raises will increase their level of productivity. To me, this tells me if these people didn't, and there's nothing in the article that actually says that people did some sort of training or any of this kind of stuff. This kind of tells me that these people were underpaid from the get-go. It's one thing that I see at work in my position. I mean, I think everybody knows this. When you go and you work at a job, there are people who get paid the same amount because they have this position, and then there's a guy who does this much, and there's a guy who does this much. Well, realistically, you're getting paid for your level of expertise and your productivity. Should these two people who have the same title, one guy does this much and the other guy does this much, get paid the same? No, they really shouldn't. So I think this is excellent. I'm really happy for these people. It sounds like these people are very, very happy. A lot of people were actually able to move closer to work, so their commute is shorter. I left my first employer out of college because I had over an hour commute for about 5 years. It was about an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes. And I moved to a closer company because the commute was pretty tough. So that's fantastic. I'm really, really happy for these people. But the thing that I think is really important, and I took a couple leadership classes, leadership training my company sent me for, and a good friend of mine is actually a I guess leadership developer or manager of managers. He trains managers on how to manage their people and coach them and all that sort of stuff. And the one thing they say is people are people. You're managing people. They are not machines. So I think when people first get hired, you have this, when you're hiring somebody, you have a description. Here is the position and the title, and here are your tasks that you need to do. And I think when you first hire someone, the salary should be like the bare minimum of what you've asked them to do, and here it is, boom. But I think especially for new hires, the manager should really be monitoring closely the level of expertise and the level of productivity that people have, because like I said, it doesn't make any sense for two people with the same title. One person's this productive, this person's this productive. They make the same amount of money. It doesn't make any sense. So I think managers really need to be in tune and recognize that people are all different. People are crazy different. So you may have two people with the same level of experience that are working in your department, but one may be significantly more productive and have higher level of expertise than somebody else. They shouldn't get paid the same. I'm sorry, they really shouldn't. So it's really great that these people at Gravity Payments they got increased their pay, and according to Dan Price, the company overall has increased its level of productivity. One little caveat that I will put in there is Gravity Payments is a smallish company. I think right now they're between 100 and 200 employees, and it says that their 3-year growth is 128%. That is extraordinary. That's really, really good. I mean, small businesses and startups and stuff like that have that sort of level of growth. Big companies are typically, I think the annual private company in the U.S. over the past couple of years, despite the economy not being that great, I think the average growth was between like 5 and 10% for a privately held company. So being able to bump people's salaries like that, when you're growing 128% over 3 years, that's pretty good. I don't know that companies that are growing 5 or 10% a year are going to be able to offer their employees that sort of benefit. But I would encourage managers out there, and I would encourage employees. People go in there and talk to your boss. We have this sort of manager and managed individual, manager and employee sort of relationship, and my manager, he's this, he's mean, he's a robot, and the manager is, these are my employees who I have to manage in my department, and their salary numbers on a sheet and all this kind of stuff, and we have to make budgets and stuff like that. Both individuals need to recognize that people are people. People are people, and every person is different. So if you need more money because you're having a kid, or you want to go to school, you want to move closer to work or something like that, I would suggest going in and talking to your manager about it. Ask them, say, hey, listen, whatever it is, I'm having a kid, my wife is going to stop working, or, I was thinking about going back to school and taking some classes, or, I really like working here, but I got to move closer and the rent is 10% more, or whatever it is. Have a conversation with them. I think you'd be surprised at the response. I've been very lucky. I've had very good managers. But I mean, at least have the conversation, what's the worst thing that happens? They tell you no, at least you tried, and maybe they can give you some feedback and say, hey, listen, I can't give it to you now because we have these budget constraints, but 6 months from now, we see this coming on the horizon, we're gonna have this much work, we have an opportunity there. Or maybe he might say, listen, I can give you a 10% raise or a 20% raise or whatever it is, but I need you to do this, I need you to get this training, or I need you to get to this level of productivity, or something like that. But I think people need to have the conversation. I think there's a lot of people that are working in particular positions and they feel that they're underpaid. And I don't even think they address it with their managers on a legitimate level. And at the same time, it's up to the managers. Their manager's job is to manage people. That is his job. Yes, he has to manage budgets and all that sorts of things. So the manager should be calling their employees in and asking them point blank and saying, listen, do you think you have fair compensation, or do you think you're fairly compensated? What more do you want? More pay? And a lot of times employees, more pay is good, but up to a certain point. I think the original impetus for Dan Price to pay his employees $70,000 was, there was some article that said, once you get $70,000, the incremental dollar over that really doesn't add to a person's well-being. And it has, some logic. Once you meet once you feel safe that you can pay your mortgage and feed your family and that kind of stuff, all the other dollars, it's all gravy, So there is some sort of logic to that. But a lot of employees may not even be looking for more money. They may be looking for a couple, the flexibility to work from home, or, a better computer or monitor, or I just got a desk at work that goes up and down so I can stand while I work rather than sit. That has increased my productivity. It's decreased my back pain, which is fantastic, but I just feel better going to work knowing that I have that kind of option. So you got to have that sort of open dialogue. Unfortunately, there's a lot of crappy managers out there. There's a lot of terrible bosses. I shouldn't say a lot. There are terrible bosses. There are crappy managers. They're really, really competitive individuals and companies and stuff like that. They don't care about people. And I would urge people, listen, if you have the option to work somewhere else that's going to treat you better and maybe get paid a tickle less, go to that place. I mean, your personal well-being, your mental well-being is, you can't put a price on that. And my personal experience is that the people you work with, the environment that you work in, is worth way more than any amount of money that somebody could pay you. So I'm really glad to hear that things worked out with these guys at Gravity Payments. I know that like companies like Costco and stuff like that, like they pay their employees, more than the minimum wage and that sort of thing. And I think that's fantastic. I think the companies that can do that should do that. I think that's there's no downside to that. I mean, what's the downside? You try it and it doesn't work, and then you go back to the way it was. I think for a lot of places it's probably worth a try. And I do think a lot of people sell themselves short. They think, I get paid this much, so this is what I'm worth. Well, no, just because you get paid this much doesn't mean you're only worth that much. Go in and ask for more. Go in and demand more. Go in and show that you're worth more. I mean, if you're working somewhere for a number of years in the same position, when you first started working, your productivity was this, and now it's this. Well, sometimes managers are managing tons of people. They lose sight of that. You got to bring it to their face and go, look, this is what I was doing a year ago. This is what I'm doing now. This is 10 times better than this, and yet my pay's only gone up by that much. We got to figure something out here. So, advocate yourself. Be your biggest advocate. And I think if people really want to see the average worker or the average middle class person or even lower class individual worker salaries go up, I think more and more and more and more people need to go and really negotiate their salaries up. Because here's the thing: if you have like a department of 50 people and one guy goes in there and is like, I'd like to get paid a little bit more, well, the manager, even if he's not a nice guy and he doesn't want him, he's gonna say, no, go take a hike. I got 49 other people that could take your job, or I got somebody else who could take your job. But if the manager starts getting 5, 6, 10 people in there who are having legit conversations as to, hey, I need to get paid more, or I want these fringe benefits, or I want this flexibility or whatever, then they have to really start evaluating, saying, hey, then they're going to have to look at their employees and say, how can we How can we make our employees happy? Because realistically, it's very expensive. Having high turnover in a company is really, really bad. It's a bad sign. It's a really, really bad sign of management if you have high turnover. It's a really, really bad sign for the company. Investors do not want to invest in a company that has high turnover. Productivity levels go down the toilet. It's just a huge overhead to have to lay off or hire and fire people constantly. So go in there, ask for more money, ask for the things that are going to make you happy in your job. And if you can't get it, do your best to search elsewhere. There's a lot of opportunities out there if you want to look for them. So try and get them. So I guess, and as I'm rattling this off, the thought comes into my head. Well, this is why people unionize, right? Well, if you got 100 carpenters working on a job, and one guy goes in and says, "Hey, I want a raise," he's gonna take a hike. I got 99 other guys who will do it, or I got the guy right behind you gonna do it. But if 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 people go in there and say, "Hey, listen, come on, we got to negotiate something a little bit better, a little bit fairer," there's strength in numbers in that regard. So, like I said, really happy to hear that things are working out for these guys at Gravity Payments. Go in there, talk to your boss. Tell him what you're feeling. And if you tell your boss what you're feeling, and he or she doesn't reply, at least in a humane way, to say, listen, I understand, you want more money, or you want this fringe benefit, or whatever it is. If they just kind of dismiss you out of hand, I don't have the money for it, get out of here, go back to work, whatever the case it is. That's not a place you want to be long term anyway. And you know what? It's good, because then you're not going to waste your time there much longer. You'll start to look to move on to bigger and better things. So that's it for now. Just to follow up. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next time.